Hi, everybody. I know you're surprised to see me. People are saying they wish I would show up in the videos a little bit more, so I'm going to try something new today, and I'm basically going to be jumping in and out, giving some commentary during the video. This is a rather lengthy video. Again, we have a lot of fabulous memes. You guys on Twitter are just the bomb. There's a lot to cover, a lot of Meghan and Harry stuff, but as usual, I put it towards the end so you guys can enjoy the real working royals. So let's just jump in and get busy, because my goodness. Let's go. So we're going to start off with the fact that a new wax figure of Diana, Princess of Wales, was unveiled in Paris. The thing that kind of got everybody is, number one, she was wearing her famous revenge dress that she wore right after Prince Charles appeared in that documentary and admitted he'd been unfaithful. And the museum, for whatever reason, chose on November 20th for the unveiling because it was the date that Diana sat down with Martin Bashir in 1995, which we now know she was tricked into doing. Now, in my opinion, that looks absolutely nothing like Diana, the Princess of Wales. I'm completely unimpressed. Forgetting the fact of the date, that doesn't look like her. But I'll tell you what did impress me, and that was the Prince of Wales, Prince William, going to officially open a specialist center for motor neuron disease named after his friend, rugby league legend Rob Burrow. Now, the Center for Patients and Their Families was Mr. Burrow's idea. He was diagnosed with the disease in 2019. He passed away at the age of 41 in June of 2024. Now, this is the first purpose-built facility dedicated entirely to motor neuron disease care, research, education, and holistic support. Now, he was toured through the facility in Leeds, and while he was there, he immediately ran up and met, Mr. Burrow's children, Macy, Maya, and Jackson. And he told them, you should be so proud of your father because he really was an incredibly brave and very special man. Prince William said that he believed the rugby league player's legacy would live on. And this is a world-leading center that's going to save a lot of lives. And for that, you should be so proud. And everyone is so grateful for letting us in on your family life and understanding what you've managed together. Now, of course, he also spoke to Mr. Burrow's widow, Lindsay, and she said it was a special day for the family to have William come and open the center. Rob asked him, would you come and open it? And he kept his word. So to have him here today was a huge honor and privilege, and it shows his kindness and consideration. She also let them know that Prince William wrote to them after Rob's passing, and it was a real heartfelt message, and that's something that they took a lot of comfort in. Prince William also spoke to Kevin Sinfield, Burrow's friend and former Leeds Rhinos teammate, who raised a total of £10 million for motor neuron disease charities since 2019. Now, of course, William was taken on a tour of the facility, and he met clinical researchers in the tech room while he was there. Now, Prince William, of course, toured the facility with Dr. Jung and spent time with patients and families, as well as meeting those who've worked so much to help it happen. You see the picture on that back wall? That's a painting of Rob Burrow being embraced by Kevin Sinfield. That's on the wall while William was unveiling a plaque. Now, this center has been designed around Burrow's determination to create a place that treats patients as people, not conditions, and places them and their families at its heart and center. This center was made possible thanks to a £6.8 million fundraising campaign, and just so you know, it was completed less than 18 months after Mr. Burrow passed away. Let's move on now to King Charles. He met a lot of people. First, he received the President of Iceland at Buckingham Palace. I'm going to try to pronounce her name, Hatma Tomastorek. Oh my goodness, that's Icelandic. The king also received Lithuania's ambassador to the United Kingdom, the Czech Republic ambassador to the United Kingdom, as well as the ambassadors from the Swiss Confederation. And King Charles wasn't done either, because then he met, as the King of Canada, the Lieutenant Governor of New Brunswick. Next up, we have Queen Camilla, who hosted a reception at St. James Palace, and she did that to celebrate the winners of the Queen's Commonwealth Essay Competition. Now, the Queen gave a speech before, of course, handing out the awards, and she said, and I'm quoting, "This year, many of the essays came from Canada, a country that is dear to both my husband and to myself, and which we were lucky enough to visit in May." Now, the Queen was hosting this reception in her role as the vice patron of the Royal Commonwealth Society. And she said, "I'm certain each one of our brilliant finalists has an exciting future in front of them." Now, I found this interesting, especially when you consider where Edward is. Camilla was pictured with the senior runner-up. She is 17 years old from Lagos, Nigeria. Isn't that interesting, considering that's where Edward is right now? So congratulations to everybody. It looks like they had a great time at the reception. And let's move on to our next story. Sticking with Camilla, she was at St. Catherine's School. She happens to be their patron, and they were celebrating 140 years since they were founded, and the official opening of their building that houses their sixth form house. And they met with charities working with those affected by domestic abuse, representatives from East Surrey Domestic Abuse Services, I Choose Freedom, and Your Sanctuary, different places. Fabulous. Let's move on now to Secret Weapon Sophie, who was pictured at the Prince Barracks military base. She's still in Belize. And she was received by Amelia May, the CEO, and local Brigadier General Anthony Velasquez, who's the acting commander of the Belize Defense Force. This was her last event in Belize. I believe she's moving on from there. I don't think she's done, though. I believe that there's going to be a few more engagements. But you know me, I'll keep an eye on it and I'll report it as it happens. A big thank you to Remoulade Sauce for showing us what Sophie was wearing. And let's move on now to the Duke of Gloucester, because on November 18th, he visited the Aberdeen Society of Architects at Aberdeen City Townhouse in Aberdeen, Scotland. Looking good. All right, next up we have the new joint coat of arms for the Prince and Princess of Wales. We need to see the individual coat of arms and their new monograms, but we have this, and I think it looks fabulous. And finally, before we get into our Harry and Meghan stuff, King Charles sent a message to Prince Albert of Monaco because he's marking 20 years since he stepped up and began his reign. Lovely message. All right, next up, before we get into the big stuff, I just wanted to show you how the Netflix ratings are going for Meghan's promo. These people, I don't know about the comments, but thank you to the Royal Grift for this. Look down at the number. 1.3 like, 18,000 down. And one more thing that came out on Tiny Tags. Now, what these people did was they sell jewelry, personalized jewelry, and they're showing this particular piece of jewelry because apparently Meghan Markle was seen wearing it when she gave that interview, remember, where she was eating that hamburger? So, of course, what do? Look at this. It's worn by royalty. Yes, the titles need to go. They need to go quickly. All right. Now, when Meghan's last promo came out, everybody said it was beige and boring. So this time around, she decided to wear a burgundy gown instead. And she was seen glazing a turkey with her $32 sage-infused honey and trying, ribbons to advertise her brand's new holiday collection in the countdown to Thanksgiving and Christmas. Well, you guys had a lot to say about that. So to start with, a lot of you pointed out the very obvious. You don't baste your turkey after it's finished, and you certainly don't baste it at the dining table. It's done in the kitchen, and it's usually done before you cook it or an hour before it's done, okay? And a lot of people were also talking about her sage-infused honey, the fact that it's not true sage honey. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move into the article that came out and all the information from the magazine along with the photo shoot. Now, honestly, I've slowed the pictures down and there's a lot of information in here that we're going to cover. So, okay, just listen closely. Now, the first thing I want to do is say a big thank you to Surfing Fox on Twitter for pointing out that if you look at the titles of these different interviews from The Cut and from Variety and from Bazaar magazine, you'll see that it's the same thing over and over and over again with her. It's crazy. I mean, how many times is she going to rewrite her chapter? Okay, here we go. So this article starts off, Megan is for some reason with a museum educator and they're talking to a bunch of girls. And Megan tries to, become nice to the girls, talking about their nails. And when one girl mentions her love of languages, Megan immediately turns it to herself and talks about how she's learning French on Duolingo and she's hit a 90-day streak. Okay, then they assemble for a group photo, and then Megan says, I don't know how any woman could see a young girl and not see herself, especially at that age. It's at this point that Terry Woods, who is the former executive vice president at Harpo Productions, speaks out. And Megan is a friend of hers. They were seen out together February of last year, leaving a restaurant. This woman also helped out with archetypes. So she speaks out. You see article written by Jack Royston, Sugar Number 2, behind Omid Scobie. And he speaks out and goes, Megan knows how to come across. She knows how she wants to connect. She understands that so much has been written about her when she does something and she wants to break through that noise so people see she's authentically trying to be herself. Did you guys catch all of Megan's buzzwords? Authentic, noise, communicate, connect. You get it? The article continues to talk about how she signed development deals with Spotify and Netflix, her lifestyle series with Love Megan. You don't hear a word about Harry in any of this. And then it talks about the launch of her brand As Ever. And after years of others attempting to fit her into their narrative, she's now pursuing a life and career that feels authentic to her and her alone, and allowing herself to enjoy it too. Whoever this is doing the interview, let me tell you, I have to wonder how much this is resulting like the Cut interview where they're throwing a few jibes in, because the woman goes, well, it's time for lunch at the Polo Lounge, which has long been the C and B scene spot for Hollywood deal-making and politicking, and it is a calculated choice as for the site of my first interview with her. She goes, yeah, it's a prime seat where we can see people and they can see us. And she goes, the Sussex's chief communication officer was sitting between us while we were talking. So, of course, Megan starts talking about herself and her childhood. And she goes, I was such a little nerd. My entire identity was wrapped up in being the smart one. There used to be this show, and I know I'm dating myself, but do you remember the show Studs? The game show? She goes, after school, kids would enact a little makeshift version of Studs to play. And they were like, well, Megan can be the host. She said, I had this personality type of, I can help, I can coordinate, I can organize, I can facilitate. And I think I'm the same now, which basically is just another way of saying I like to be in control. No, I know you're going to be shocked by this, but the letter she wrote to Procter & Gamble came up again. And then, of course, she starts talking about how she was there during the riots in LA in 1992. But, of course, we already know from Thomas Markle that's not true. He took her out of the city. She wasn't there to see any of that. Now, in an attempt to seem more relatable, Megan's friendship with Kelly Zafin is brought up, and Megan's friend goes, it's a small group of us, and we protect each other. We had fallen out of touch, but Megan reached out after she found out that Zafin's 9-year-old son had passed away. She goes, the second I heard her voice, it was like I was right back with her. There's not a day that goes by that she hasn't checked in, or I haven't checked in. Someone can show up in a time of need or grief, and oftentimes they don't stay, or they're only there for a short amount of time. But Megan has made herself available to all of us. Yeah, because you guys want her to be seen as more relatable. Now, at this point, she starts talking about her work ethic and what a great work ethic she has. And then she starts talking about if you make a mistake, you learn not to do it again. But if it all goes swimmingly, you don't learn from it. And if you don't learn anything, you're not going to grow. I'm a mom with kids at that age where they are constantly learning something new. I watch them face things that feel completely insurmountable every day. But you can remember and say, I know it seems really hard right now, but trust me, that's going to come so easily soon. And I can give myself the grace as a founder. There's no such thing as perfect. I too get to make mistakes. Then, of course, Serena Williams pops in. They say she's good friends. And she goes, we could talk for 100 hours and it feels like 10 minutes go by. We never stop smiling. They're really trying hard to make her seem like a normal, relatable person. But then the next thing happened. As the time at their table is coming to an end, the woman asks Megan what she hopes her kids see. And Megan goes, I hope they see the value of being brave. They saw it when the jam was just a pot on the stove bubbling when they were young. I think that when you're a little bit more fearless, we lose some of that. Oh my God. Now, this is where Megan loses the relatability. The interviewer met up with her a week later in New York. They were at a brownstone on the Upper East Side that belonged to somebody else. And when they entered the house manager actually announced, Megan, Duchess of Sussex. Yeah, she got announced into the house, even though it looked like they were the only two people in the house. And remember, they were in New York to receive that ridiculous Humanitarian of the Year award from Project Healthy Minds. Remember, this is a woman who's not attached to titles. She said her most important title was mom. You could have fooled me. She puts her royal cipher on anything that'll stand still. She makes sure her title's used at all times, and she gets announced into a house. Unbelievable. They start this interview, and Megan goes, well, I love to be able to play in the sandbox with my kids and then play in the front row at a show. And the woman that's doing the interview points out that women in the public eye are multidimensional. And when they are that way, they get a lot of flack. And Megan goes, what do you mean? So then the interviewer launched into a tangent about the culture's deep and historical distrust of women's voices in public. And finally, she goes, you know what I mean? And she goes, Megan deadpans, yeah. Because I don't think Megan understood a word she said. The woman looks at Megan and says, I think you have good boundaries. And Megan goes, well, I think they're stronger once I came into the public eye. She goes, whether it be by self-preservation or just growing up. So it's at this point Megan starts talking about Harry, and she's still trying to push the love story narrative. Her hand on her chest, and she says, he loves me so boldly, fully. He has a different perspective because he sees media that I wouldn't. No one in the world loves me more than him, so I know he's going to make sure that he has my back. And you have to have someone who just has this childlike wonder and playfulness, and I was so drawn to that, and he brought that out in me, and that's translated into every part of our life, even in business. I want us to play and have fun and explore and be creative. You know, the one thing she doesn't say is how much she loves him. It's always, he loves me, he does this for me. She never once says that she loves him. The next thing she does is talk about her mom, how her mom raised her, and her grandmother. She does not mention her father, and he is completely written out as if he wasn't even there, even though we already know that her father is the one who raised her. She's trying to completely rewrite the narrative. She then goes back to the LA of Megan's childhood, talking about the fire last winter and how Pasadena and Altadena, two of the community's hardest hit, and how Megan went to volunteer with Chef Jose Andres and the World Central Kitchen. She says it was less about giving someone a handout, but giving them to it with dignity. Here's the thing. What you saw is Megan walking around like the woman here is asking Megan to do something. And Megan goes, yeah, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. And then she bends over a cooler, turns around, and then walks back over to the group and doesn't do what the woman asked. And then all she did was walk around hugging people on camera. I don't know what the hell it was she actually thought that she was doing. She said, you know, can you treat somebody with the same level of care that you would if you had lost everything? Give me a break. As the interview was ending, Megan lets the woman know that she's going to see Glow Flo, and then lets her know that Glow had Thanksgiving at their house. And she goes, Megan is remarkably at ease with the surreal of global celebrity. In fact, she seems to enjoy it. You think so? Listen, these pictures came out, and it's very, very obvious that Megan sees herself as some sort of a supermodel. The problem is nobody else sees her that way. She's got some serious mental issues as far as I'm concerned. She has no empathy. She cannot see beyond herself. The pictures, in my opinion, are not flattering in the least. Now, I have to tell you that when I look into Megan's eyes, she looks dead to me. It's like she has no soul. It's creepy. And also, of course, when are people going to figure out that she's not Diana, but she wants to be? Now, a big thank you to Fee and J.E. Man and that one and everybody on Twitter for the pictures that you're about to look at. I also found this picture of Diana in this dress, which looks suspiciously like this dress. All right, let's continue on. Now, I want to tell you something really quick before we move on to our last story. It was put by Something So Strong on Twitter, and I'm going to paraphrase it. But the feature is entitled Megan's Moment with the strapline. After years of being submersed by other people's narratives, she's ready to author her own chapter. And the question is, what years? She was only a working royal for less than 2 years. She did plenty of speaking engagements, but it proves that she never intended to be part of the team. She always wanted to be center stage. And you wonder why people all over the world who loved and respected the Queen, who she totally disrespected, by the way, why they dislike her. A large section of the interview, of course, is dedicated to Harry and his love for his wife, but apparently he doesn't mind that she barges in front of him and controls him with her hand, and basically he gets what he deserves. Megan also admits to making mistakes and says, it's not a lot of fun in trying to be perfect, but she sure as hell didn't try to be perfect. She's a mother being brave to see fun in things for her children, but she joined the royal family already plotting her return to California. When they had lunch at the place where she, it's the place to go be seen. Well, of course, Megan wanted to be seen. And when she's talking about she hopes her children think she's brave because of some jam bubbling on the stove, you know for a fact that she has lost the plot. If she chose to be in the public eye before she married Harry, she could have followed the late Duchess of Kent's example, who voluntarily withdrew from public life, became a music teacher, and was known as Mrs. Kent. No one forced her to keep the royal title, and they both let our late queen down by commercializing those titles. They're both frauds and liars. And Kelly Zafin's going on about how supportive Meghan was when her son died, but how supportive was Meghan towards the Queen when Prince Philip died, and when he was dying, and they went ahead with the Oprah, lie-a-thon. Yeah. And finally, our last story of this video. For those of you who don't know, Prince Harry has had a really big blow. His support in the United States, is being reported, has collapsed to its lowest recorded level. 38% of U.S. adults expressed support for him in 2025. That is a 14-point decline from the beginning of the year. That is the steepest fall in his appeal since the tracking began. Now, YouGov ratings data covers July through September. And while 50% of Americans view Harry favorably at the start of the year, it's now plummeted. Being reported that 21% now actively dislike him. Can you believe this? Now, we know that Harry and Meghan have struggled to establish a fresh public identity after they left the royal family, and they've both pursued independent projects, but neither has a successful, strong connection with American audiences. Meghan's approval ratings had an even sharper decline than Harry's during 2025 first half, plummeting 18 points to leave her with a net rating of just +4 by July. Now, recent months have seen that she has improved slightly, bringing her up to +15. But she still remains less popular than Harry among Americans. You guys know I am so looking forward to those comments. Obviously, I'm reading them. Make them good. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button and the bell for all notifications. Then go down into the description box where you'll find the link to my Twitter, my Gettr, my Rumble, my email, a link to my second channel, a link to my father's book, great stocking stuff for you guys, a link to my Amazon wish list, and a physical address. For those of you who have donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.